Chapter 24. The talented hawk hides its claws, my mother noted, as Gunner's SUV pulled to a halt in front of my apartment complex. And despite my best attempt at maintaining a poker face, I was pretty sure I jolted visibly at the internal commentary yet again. So it was a good thing any astute alpha questions were cut off by an interjection from the back seat. 1 hour, Tank informed us, looking up from his phone for the first time since we'd entered the vehicle. Jackal says he'll meet us at the southside McDonald's at 11 p.m. He wants Mai there. I nodded, already pushing open the SUV door in relief. I'd be too frazzled to think straight if I spent the next 60 minutes in these wolves' presence, especially with the ghost of a mother hovering at the back of my mind. So a little time to stuff Mama back in the corner where she belonged, and to finally pull on a pair of panties to stop the chafing, seemed like a gift from the gods. Unfortunately, a hand reached out to close around my left wrist before I could make good on my escape. "You're not going to run," Gunner informed me, the words a question disguised as an order. "I just need time to shower and catch my breath," I replied honestly. Well, that, plus the leeway to pull my brain back together. Mental hygiene, physical hygiene. It amounted to pretty much the same thing. "I'll meet you there." "We'll pick you up," Gunner countered. But he did release my wrist. And even though I could feel the alpha's eyes boring into my back as I strode to the apartment building's entrance, the vehicle was gone when I peered back through the fogged glass from inside. Only then did I lean my forehead against the tiny square of window, close my eyes, and speak to the ghost, who seemed intent upon hounding my every move. "Any ideas, Mama, on how to get Kira back?" "A frog in a well does not know," my mother began, only to lapse into silence rather than finishing the phrase. "Doesn't know what, Mama?" I was talking to myself in an empty stairwell, I realized as I spun in a circle, hoping for more words of wisdom from someone who had died soon after Kira was born. Despite that self-awareness, however, I waited longer than I cared to consider, hoping the ghost would return, and at least finish her sentence, if nothing else. But at last, I was forced to admit my solitude. So I walked up the stairs alone, padded down the hallway with my hand on my starball-turned sword, then froze as I took in a small rectangle of paper tacked to the outside of my apartment door. For half a second, I thought Kira had come back and left me a note so I wouldn't worry, that she'd just been teasing Alan, had forgotten tonight was fight night, had let her mercurial fox nature get the better of her considerate human mind. Then I stepped closer, took in scrawled handwriting, nothing like my sister's looping script. Knew Kira was well and truly taken, and wasn't going to be returned easily or willingly to her home. Because I couldn't smell my sister here any more than I had done in Jackal's underground hideout. Couldn't smell anything, actually, except the metallic bite of baking soda that matched the trail of human-shaped footprints following the path I'd just taken from stairwell to door. Then, behind me, the trickle of a melody. Not a whistle this time, but the actual tinkle of Mama's music box, emerging from the stairs I'd just walked up. The killer was here, in my apartment building, and not bothering to think through the fact that, even in my frazzled state, I wouldn't have overlooked someone standing in the stairwell, I sprinted back in the direction from which I'd come. Thundered down the stairs so loudly residents pounded on their walls and swore at being woken, pushed through the heavy fire door at the front entrance, and peered out into a seemingly empty street. There was no one there. No one to match the trail of baking soda footprints that disappeared as soon as it hit uneven pavement. No scent of shifter, no sound of music box, no magic tugging at my starball and leading me toward the sister who should have been safely snuggled in her bed upstairs. So, shoulders slumping, I looked in both directions one last time, then climbed back up the stairs far more quietly than I'd rushed down them. And as I did so, I paid attention this time to the footprints, measuring their length in my mind's eye. The tracks were larger than my own feet, but not so large they were definitively male, nor so small they were definitively female. The tread screamed athletic shoes, but the stride was shorter than my own, suggesting whoever wore those sneakers didn't often use their gear to work out, which meant my visitor could have been about 80% of the people in the city. Good luck using that evidence to make an arrest. Refusing to be disheartened by the lack of information, I made a beeline for my apartment as soon as I stepped out onto the third floor once again. The note was still there, the words gradually materializing as I puzzled out the pointy handwriting that had initially resembled nothing more than bird tracks in the snow. And as I read, I gradually sank forward until my forehead rested on the scuffed surface of the doorframe. Because the message was worse than expected, nothing like the overt threat Jackal would have offered. Instead, the words were polite, cultured, and marked the death knell of the secrecy that had protected me and my sister for the last 25 years. The artifacts aren't working as advertised, the note writer informed me. The young fox is not an adequate guide. Come to the South Street Bridge at midnight to renegotiate. Don't make this poor child suffer by bringing werewolves along.